We live? Check, check, check. I'm gonna put something on to listen to while I edit. Say hi, everybody. How was your Thanksgiving? Elon stuns the world with new cars. Trump's having dinner with Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago. Dang, that looks sick. Students flee area as rebels enter Syria's Aleppo. Florida woman leaves kid in burning car to shoplift. Wow. Apparently they all escaped, all three kids. We can't watch JRE clips. Hmm. Is the final experiment a hoax? What's the final experiment? Some flat earth stuff.
In Africa. So I would argue, and I'd be curious as to Zach's thoughts here, because he definitely knows his stuff on this, which makes him more fun to engage. And so determining where we're going to place the epicenter of genetic diversity relies on a lot of assumptions. And I would argue many of them being unknowable. And so realistically, for us as creationists, all we need is one or a combination of these. Okay. So faster mutation rates in African lineages, selective sweeps. That's a big one, where let's say there was a selective sweep across Eurasia that resulted in your older lineages being completely wiped out. So wouldn't that mean that they would have had greater diversity, but now they're wiped out? Okay. And now you have your lineages in Africa being the ones that remain or survive. Okay. The older lineages in Africa survive. The other ones are wiped out. Okay. So now we don't have those existing today to compare. Or Africa could have had a higher initial population size where many people coming out of Babel, they move into Africa in waves, right? Greater amounts of people move into Africa, waves and waves. And then many of Noah's descendants could have moved into Africa, therefore bringing in a lot of diversity for Africa to start with. So, there's a few. I think the selective sweeps alone could answer that challenge, but you could have all of those at play to explain the African diversity. What are your thoughts, Matt?
The first thing that come into my mind is Africans have more PRDM9 spots where recombination can happen faster, speeding up mutation rates. We know that places that are hotter in temperature have more mutation rates. When Parsons did a study on mutation rates and he was looking at the colder regions where the Amish lived, they had a slower.
They're talking about how to justify young Earth creationism with science. Science rules. What up, bro?
Mutation rate by like 17 or 14 to 17%. Massive amount of difference. So we know that different populations have different mutation rates. Then we have generation time. Nathaniel Zaginski said they've had about twice the amount of populations. Why? Because their generation time was around 15 years. We also have smaller population size. So there you go. You get weaker selection removing mutations that in a smaller population size was reach fixation more. That's why Africans have more more of those. It's so easy to answer. Then he said there's all the studies point to a most recent common ancestor in Africa using coalescence. No, they don't. Here's a study that was done that shows the most recent common ancestor lived 3000 BC and was in Asia, and that was using a coalescence model. I'm getting it right now. Don't worry. And he must be more of a critic, not looking at our evidence, because he should know this by now. This is like so simple to answer. It's ridiculous. He goes, "Oh, the bottleneck was 200,000 years ago." Yeah, that's what Google says. But if you want to ignore every observable empirical mutation rate study that shows that's not true, then
What up, John?
go ahead. Go feel free to ignore it. It's fine.
Low energy stream. We're just hanging out watching this. I'm editing some stuff on my phone. So we're just listening to this. This is live right now. I guess Ken Ham's gonna be on. Or maybe he was already on. Oh yeah, he was on earlier. We could skip back. But what they're talking about right now is pretty interesting. They're talking about the problems with young Earth and how they can be justified. Speciation, probably the number one thing. Let's see what Ken was saying.
By one man's sin entered into the world, and death by sin. See, the polar opposite view of evolution and creation, they could not be more different. They're irreconcilably different. Creation says,
I said Kent Ham. It's Kent Hovind. I think Ken Ham is in jail for tax evasion or something.
common era. Come on, it stands for before Christ. The year created or date earliest known is 1800 BC from Minoans.
Yeah, they took Christ out of the dang timeline. BC is before Christ. They made it BCE, before Common Era. What up, Amanda?
Cretan hieroglyphics, 2100 BC. Elamite cuneiform, 2200 BC. Akkadian cuneiform, 2500 BC. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, about 3000, again, 5,000 years ago. It's just not correct to say the Earth is billions of years old. Man was stupid up until just 5,000 years ago. Is that what you guys are claiming? No. Again, 3000 BC. The Narma palette, 3000 BC. So, by the way, shows dinosaurs on there. How did they know that, 3000 BC? Dinosaurs always lived with man. They called them dragons or some other name. Let's see. Hieroglyphic billboard, 3200 BC. 3200 BC. So the Bible dates add up to 6,000 years. All the ancient history adds about the same. Now, if you find some older than that, they might be slightly exaggerated, might be incorrect, maybe they got it wrong. Maybe some pre-flood rocks got carved on by pre-flood people and survived the flood. Let's see. What would Noah's flood do to a rock? Get it wet, and then it dries out. That's it, right? First developed systems of word writing appeared only 5,000 years ago. The oldest language that can reasonably be reconstructed was modern, sophisticated, and complete. The oldest language, 18 feet ago. Columbus discovered America. Jesus died on the cross. Creation. All fits perfectly. I think you were being lied to, folks. So they're talking about the Earth being billions of years old. Nobody learned to write.
Yeah, turkey turned out real great. Super juicy. Everybody who said it was gonna be dry owes me Bitcoin. You all owe me money. If you thought my turkey, if you had no faith in your boy, if you thought the turkey was gonna come out like jerky, it didn't come out like jerky. It came out perfectly. It wasn't jerky. It was perfectly. That's like perfectly. I'm trying to make it rhyme. Turkey was amazing. Still juicy to this day. I told my mom I'm going to be eating it for like 2 weeks. She's like, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to keep it after like 4 days. I was like, 4 days? Sometimes I have Thanksgiving leftovers a month later. What you talking about 4 days? Yeah, Echo always gets a bowl on Thanksgiving. Make him a little bowl. You can feed dogs. I mean, you can feed dogs anything, but he's got a sensitive stomach. And if I can give him some potatoes, some green beans, usually give him a little piece of sweet potato and a bunch of turkey. He loves it. Put a bowl on the ground. He's like sliding the bowl all around. He lays down when he eats. He doesn't stand up and eat. He lays down and gets all comfortable and just kind of does his head like this while he eats. And so he's doing that with the bowl, and the bowl's sliding all around the kitchen, under the counter, under the stove, and he's just chasing after it. Dogs can eat chickens and food we can't because of their stomach system. Well, I eat chicken. Dang. Past the use date. Well past, I'm told. Well, I've always been all right. Maybe not a month, but at least 2 weeks I'll still be eating it. I'll probably be making a stew out of it in 3 weeks. She said it was on the news. They said that after 4 days you have to throw it out. Like psh, psh, psh.
Record a language before for millions of years. The monkeys were too stupid. Yep. Let me show you just a couple more. Donna, you tell me when to quit here. I've got the oldest calendars, the oldest system of capital punishment, the oldest, the salt in the oceans. Today, the oceans are 3.6% salt. We know when it rains, the water runs off the mountains and runs off the valleys into the oceans. And evaporation takes out just the water. Of course, it leaves the salt behind. As the water runs over the land, it picks up mineral salts. They could have gone from completely fresh water to 3.6% salt in 5,000 years. Why aren't the oceans saltier? The origin of Earth's oceans. Why is the ocean salty? U.S. Geological Service. Why is the ocean salty? 70% of the Earth is covered in water. 97% of all the water on the Earth is saline, salty. I believe during Noah's flood, it was all fresh water. Noah didn't have to bring water on board the ark. We're building a one-scale model of Noah's Ark. You're going to see we're going to have a moon pool in it with valves. When you go over a wave, you turn the valve and fill your water tanks with fresh water right out of the ocean. So let's see. Where did all the salt come from? The answer is very simple. The last line, salt in the oceans comes from rocks on land. Here's how it works. Okay. Concentration of salt in the seawater is about 35 parts per 1,000, 3.5%. A cubic mile of seawater, the weight of the salt would be about 120 million tons. That's today. But see, that's because it keeps getting saltier from the oceans, from the rain washing mineral salts off the ground into the ocean, evaporation taking out only the water, leaving the salts behind. So they're gaining salt. Nobody argues about that, I don't think. So there's a big water distillation process. Okay, you can study about that all for yourself. Oceans gain salt due to the release of mineral salts from the rainwater. Rocks on land are the major source of salts dissolved in the rainwater, in the seawater. Then you get salts coming up from the bottom from hydrothermal vents. Why is the ocean salty? Well, there's stuff squirting up into the salt squirting up into the bottom of the ocean.
Salt squirting up in it.
Springs. So I think the salt in the ocean, 3.6%, is a good indication. It's not billions of years old. Now, if you need billions of years to turn your frog to a prince, I'm sorry, go live on a different planet because it doesn't happen here. Seawater, let's see. Do volcanoes occur in the ocean? Oh, yeah, most of them, actually. Earth's crust is broken into a series of slabs. 60% of all active volcanoes occur at the boundaries of these tectonic plates. Most volcanoes are found along a belt called the Ring of Fire. So we got these volcanoes all over the place. Let's see. More than 1 million submarine volcanoes in the world's oceans. A bunch. Geologists identified 5,000 active underwater volcanoes, which account for more than 75% of the total lava eruption every year. Why aren't the oceans saltier? Why hasn't this all calmed down by now? If the Earth is billions of years old, you'd think all the plates had quit moving after a while, run out of energy, and settle into place. Salt domes in the bottom. Well, that's another long story. Let me go back to the beginning here. The magnetic field of the Earth is getting weaker. Jesus said, or Job said in the book of Job, speak to the earth and it shall teach thee. What can we learn from the earth? Well, he formed it to be inhabited. That's what he said in Isaiah 45. Today, only 3% of it's habitable. Something changed. The earth has a magnetic field around it. No, not all planets have magnetic fields. I don't care about that. Earth has a moderately strong magnetic field. Mercury has a very weak field. Venus and Mars have almost no measurable field. Let's see. Not all magnetospheres are created equal. Venus and Mars do not have magnetospheres at all. Generated by the motion of a molten core in the Earth's core, molten iron, I'm sorry. The magnetic field protects our planet from cosmic radiation. Origin of Earth's magnetic field remains a mystery. God made it, guys, okay? What causes Earth's magnetic field? They know, though, that Earth's magnetic field, we know what's causing it here. We know it's getting weaker. I'll show you here. How it forms is one view. But we know that's what causes the northern lights. I know they're going to see them tonight pretty strong. Does anybody check? Is it coming clear to Alabama? Northern lights, anybody know? But you can see them down here once in a great while. Okay. But my wife wants so bad to see them, but you got to go to Alaska.
You shouldn't be able to see them here, but they're doing weird experiments with the
Earth's magnetic field.
Borealis.
There's been many books written on this and videos made about it. The Earth's magnet is getting weaker. Magnets lose power over time. In the absence of external influence, an industrial magnet alloy would hypothetically remain magnetic for hundreds of years. Let's see. Can a magnet lose its magnetism over time? Yep. A modern Sumerian cobalt magnet takes around 700 years to lose half its strength. What causes a permanent magnet to lose its magnetism? No permanent magnet is permanent. No such thing, okay? They say the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, but the magnets lose their strength. How much are they losing? Let's see. I got this stuff in here somewhere. Magnetic, cool science experiments with magnets. That's pretty cool. I like that.
That's pretty cool.
What is the half-life of Earth's magnetic field? 548 years. Wait a minute. We're going to lose half our energy. Yeah. In 50, I'm losing mine now. Lose half our energy in 550 years. Earth's magnetic field is fading. What's the year on that one? Don't see the year on there. According to Earth's geologic record, our magnetic field flips on average of once every 200,000 years. I'll go on record in saying I doubt that seriously. I don't think the magnetic field can reverse, okay? And I don't think it's ever been proven that it did. Let's see. Earth's magnetic field is changing. Depletion of Earth's magnetic field. It's getting weaker. What's going to happen? Well, let's see. Ever since Carl Gauss made this first evaluation in 1835, about every 10 to 15 years, they've been checking it. Earth's magnetic field is getting weaker. Okay? Doesn't bother me. If Earth's magnetic field, is it presently in decline? Yeah. It's weakening in strength 5% every 100 years. See, nobody knows of a way to improve it, speed it up. Earth's magnetic field is fading, 10% weaker than 1845. Started keeping tabs on it in 1845. The declining magnetic field.
Right.
Earth's magnetic field is weakening 10 times faster now than it used to be. Studies show how the magnetic field is changing. Earth's magnetic field is weakening 10 times faster. Whoa. Earth's magnetic field is not about to flip. I don't think it can flip. Okay, I think that's baloney. We covered that in video number 6 of my series. Are we about to have a magnetic reversal? Certainly not. You can read all the article for yourself. So, Donnie, I think if you look at the Earth's magnetic field and say, wow, it's got to be less than 5,000 years old. That fits the Bible just fine. God made everything 6,000 years ago. There was a big flood 4,400 years ago that destroyed the world. And so the Earth, the flood had to the Earth resettled it. And after the flood,
You're glitching.
4,500 years, no problem. Let's see. Today I was given the tour and talked about the ice cores. In Denver, Colorado, there's a laboratory. I went there to visit these giant freezer where they store ice cores. What is that? Well, they drill holes with a pipe through the ice and save the core in the middle. There's the coring machine. They drill down. When they lift it up, little fingers tip out at the bottom and break off the ice, and they get a sample of ice inside that core. Here's one laying on the shelf to be studied. When I went to look at this, I asked the guy, "What are these annual? Are these annual rings? The dark light ring? Oh yeah, annual rings. They call them annual rings, and they say they can go back 130,000 years in Greenland, and 80,000 years Antarctica, 800,000 years. This is called baloney. Okay, those aren't annual rings is the problem. Record-shattering 2.7 million year old ice core. Again, this is propaganda. Is all it is. They're counting every dark line as summertime when the snow melted on top, turned to ice that was clear. The rest of the year it just squeezed down and packed. Let's see, show you a picture of it here. So the white is supposed to be wintertime when it packs down. The clear is supposed to be summertime when it melted a little bit and refroze as clear ice. So they'll say we got these ice cores. They got huge freezer full of these things. What a waste of government money, okay? Here's a guy, snowpack at the Sawtooth Avalanche Center. It's got a whole bunch of layers to it. In one season, those layers are not annual rings, guys, they're annual layers. Okay, you have landslides or snow slides, let's see. 50 Eskimo words for snow. There's wet snow, dry snow, heavy snow, big snow, powder snow, crud, packed powder, granular snow. I'm glad to live in Alabama, brother. I don't have to worry about none of this, okay? They have these ice cores and they have rings in them, like a tree ring. There's an example right there. Well, if on a warm day, you might get a layer of ice on top that'll refreeze and make clear ice. Cold at night, warm in the daytime. You could get a new layer every day. You could get several a day.
He's right.
Did the temperature drop today or what? I'm out there giving tours in the Jeep and all of a sudden, man, about froze. Here's an article that says, in Greenland and Antarctica, where the weather is consistently dry and cold, glaciers are miles thick, but the annual rings are very thin. There's the problem. They're not annual. The deepest ice core measured 10,000 feet, which is 135,000 years. This is called baloney, okay? Warm days and cold nights would give 7 layers in 1 week. Those are not annual layers. Annual layers in direct, okay. In World War II, P-38 landed in Greenland. They flew to England to join the war, and they got caught in a storm, turned around, tried to get home, and ran out of gas over Greenland. So they crash landed in Greenland, right there, P-38. So some rich guy in Kentucky said, hey, I'd like to have one of those planes for my museum. Let's go get it. He paid a whole bunch of money to have a bunch of guys go find that airplane. There were 5 of them. And take it apart and bring it back to Kentucky. Middleborough, Kentucky. You can go, I don't know if you can ride in it now. You can go see it. The Lost Squadron. There it is. They flew over to England, ran out of gas, had to come back home, or got caught in a storm or something. When they finally found the airplanes, they'd been in the ice for 48 years, covered by 263 feet of ice in 48 years. They had a special tube that they would run hot water through and it would melt its way down. They called it a gopher. So they went down, took one of the airplanes apart. And see, the ice rings in Greenland, the Lost Squadron it's called. They took it apart, brought the pieces up through the hole, and put it back together. It's in Middleborough, Kentucky, if you want to go see it at the Air Museum there. They are in the ground, under the ice, for 48 years. 263 feet below the surface. That's 5.5 feet of ice per year average. 26 years, 5.5 feet. They only went back 1,800 years, not millions. Deeper ice gets pressed and the layers are thinner because of the pressure. So accumulating all that ice in 4,400 years is no problem. And planes do not sink in the ice. The nose is always heavy. If you run out of gas, you want it to come in nose first so you can steer it. You don't want it to come in tail first. So they always balance the plane so they're nose heavy. If the plane's resting on the ice And if it's sinking because of just melting through the ice, it would be nose down, and it's not. The plains are level. 63 feet down, they hit the cover, plywood cover, left in 1983, 8 years earlier. Had to go 63 feet to go back 8 years? I talked to Bob Carden, right there, at the museum in Middleborough, Kentucky. He's the guy who helped dig out the plane. I said, Bob, were there ice rings above the airplane? He said, many hundreds of them. I said, how do you get hundreds of ice rings, if they're annual, in 48 years? He said, who told you those are annual rings? They're not annual. Summer, winter, summer, winter. He said they had 30 to 40 rings in the 9 years old they're digging on the project. But they're still calling them in Scientific American annual rings. I'm sorry, the annual layers. This is baloney, okay? Pure baloney. How far can ice cores be dated? 800,000 years. Yeah. Anyway, so that's another one of the many scientific indicators. How many more you want, Donnie?
Well, you've got so many good ones there, Ken. How about just about 20 more? Just kidding. What about the moon recession? That's, I think, a really good one that at least helps to put an age limit on the Earth itself. There we go.
Well, the Earth's moon, our moon, is going around the Earth every 27 days. It's 239,000 miles away, right? Nobody argues about that. How quickly is the moon moving away from Earth? What? The moon is moving away from the Earth 1.5 inches per year. We're losing the moon. The moon is leaving us in theatlantic.com. Young age for the moon and the Earth. Dr. Thomas G. Barnes, PhD in physics. The moon's getting farther away. Yeah, I feel like we're drifting apart. NASA article. Let's see. Right now, the moon is moving away from Earth about 4 centimeters, 1.5 inches every year because of tidal interaction. There's lots of different known scientific features that are causing the moon to move away from the Earth. Moon is moving away 1.49 inches per year. Bye-bye, moon. Bye-bye. We're losing the moon. Let's see. The moon is leaving us. Astronomy books are fond of quoting that the moon is gradually spiraling away from the Earth. I agree. Why is the moon leaving us? We stink, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't like us. Right now, the moon is moving away from Earth 4 centimeters a year, about 1.5 inches. I don't think you find anybody argue about that. The moon's getting farther from the Earth. Why is the moon getting further from the Earth? It's destined to disintegrate in space. Is the moon moving away from Earth? When was this discovered? The moon's circular orbit is getting larger, 3.8 centimeters, about 1.5 inches, every year. Our moon has been slowly drifting away from Earth over the past 2.5 billion years old. That's what you call baloney, okay? Not true. The moon's orbit is increasing by a rate of 3.8 centimeters, 1.5 inches every year, Cornell University. There's a law called the inverse square law. I say atheists, now listen. If the moon is getting further from the Earth, that means that it used to be closer. How many can figure that out with no help? Okay. Well, if you bring the moon back in closer, you create a problem. There's a law called the inverse square law. If you brought the moon into 1/3 the distance, 1/3, you take that fraction, flip it over, and square it. It's 9 times the gravitational pull. Inverse square law, you can study it, applies gravity. It applies to light. The light intensity, how bright do you want it to be? It applies to magnetism. It applies to girls. When I'm a certain distance away, it's attraction. When you're 1/3 that amount, then it's 9 times greater. If you 1/3 it again, overcomes resistance, futile. Okay, so the moon's distance. Well, let's see. If you go back 1,000 years, 125 feet closer. 1 million years, 228 miles closer. 10 million, 282 miles. 100 million, 2,800 miles. 1 billion, 28,000 miles. 1.4 billion, the Earth and Moon would snap together like 2 magnets. The evolution of the lunar semi-major axis presents the well-known timescale problem.
It's a big problem.
The lunar orbit collapses a little over 1 billion years ago. Astronomical Journal. See, the moon's getting further, which means it used to be closer. If you go back in time, 1.4 billion years, they snap together like 2 magnets. If we take the moon's current rate of recession and project it back in time, we end up with a collision 1.5 billion years ago. However, the moon was first formed 4.5 billion years ago. I see, space.com. They cannot give up on that. The evolution of the lunar semi-major axis is a well-known timescale problem. It collapses 1 billion years ago. Well, Donnie, the moon is getting farther from the Earth. Here's a model of the moon. I got a model of the Earth here someplace. Let's see. My globe.
It's not my birthday.
Well, oh, over here. Okay. And they're about the right scale. The moon's about this big compared to the Earth. The moon's getting further away, which means it used to be closer. You cannot go back billions of years. 1.2 or 1.4 billion years. It's so strong, it sucks it in and snaps together like two magnets. But way before that happens, the tides would be horrendous on Earth.
Crazy.
The moon is 250,000 miles away right now, still making a huge tide on the Earth. Imagine if it was closer. But I know, Donnie, you're going to get comments on your channel here. Atheists are going to call in and text in, oh, Hovind's crazy. We know the Earth is billions of years old. You do not possibly know any such thing. You believe it's billions of years old. You can't know
Facts.
that.
That's
How
right.
can you? Yep, go
Nobody
ahead.
knows that.
No, I'm saying that's right. It's a
Yeah.
science fiction religion that they have, brother.
All it is. The human population is one more that's a good one. In 1999, there were 6 billion people in the world. 1810, there was only 1 billion. I think the world passed over 8 billion now recently, sometime in the last year. 8 billion people.
They say it'll max
Here's
out
the
at
population
11
from
billion.
different times to history.
Plateau.
You only have to go back on this chart. They go back 7,000 BC. You mean all the humans in the world could have been produced in less than 10,000 years? Yep. You mean nobody figured out how to make babies for millions of years? I've seen some real dumb people figure it out, brother. Real dumb, okay? See, at the time of Christ, the world's population was 1/4 of 1 billion. 2023, population is 8 billion. There it is. I knew I saw it somewhere. 9 billion by 2050. Okay? Well, you only have to go back in time. 8 people getting off of Noah's Ark 4,500 years ago could easily make all the people we have today. Especially when you consider right after the flood,
Nor
the
do I
people said
care.
the people were
D.
still living
This
to be
isn't about
400
flat
years
Earth.
old. How many kids could you have in 400 years? A whole bunch. So I think that gave the population a great boost, jump all of a sudden. Okay. Anyway, Donnie, any comments or questions there?
Yeah, if you could you pull up the PowerPoint slide again that you have
I gotta go make
where it
some
gives a
coffee
list
with
of the lines of evidence for a young Earth? I noticed one comments.
It's right here.
I was
Nick,
wondering. Now, I think the line of evidence from comets, the fact that they can't last billions of years old or even hundreds of thousands of years old, is a good one because the rescue device really has no empirical evidence for it, the Oort cloud. So I was wondering if you could cover that briefly, brother.
Sure. Comets show the universe is not billions of years old. The sun's heat vaporizes some of the comet material, releasing dust particles that were trapped in the ice. Combination of solar radiation pressure and solar wind blow away gas and dust from a comet's nucleus, forming 2 separate tails, the ion tail and the dust trail. As the comet goes around the sun blows the tail away from the sun, which means sometimes the tail could be in front of the comet. Could be the comet's going this way, but the tail's in front of it because it's produced by the solar wind. Okay, it's hard for us to think of something living outside of our atmosphere. Okay,
I could care less about the flat Earth debate, Dean. I think it's a stupid debate. We know what shape the Earth is. We know it's observable, testable, and demonstrable. We can just look at it and figure it out. It's not complicated. Now, the age of the Earth is a much more interesting debate because we don't know the age of the Earth. We can't retroactively go back 10,000 years and do experiments and observe things and demonstrate things because we don't have a time machine. So we have no way of knowing how old the Earth is. We can guess. We can look at rocks and do experiments on rocks to guess. Yeah, I know. You ask this all the time, Dean. We've been through this. There's a reason why it's bad. It's over skepticism. It's too much skepticism. It's skepticism to the point where now it's a joke. And now you instantly have something that when you say it to people, nothing else you say matters. I don't care about anything else you have to say once you say the earth is flat. Because you're just oblivious. You don't care about truth. You just think it's cool to pretend that the world is flat and just be contrarian just to be contrarian. It's a great epic troll that unfortunately a lot of people have actually started to believe in. But yes, it's harmful. It's harmful to Christians and it's harmful to the skeptic community in general, which are usually the skeptics are the atheists. So it's harmful to atheist skeptics and it's harmful to Christian skeptics and it's harmful to Christians in general because it makes us look like idiots. But the age of the earth, now this is an actual question. This is something we can dig into.
Here we go. Comets are falling apart. Okay. Well, that means they used to be bigger. If they're losing material, you can't keep losing and losing and then expect to have it all unless you work for the government. Okay. 621 million mile tail on a comet. Let's see. Twitter, unbelievable comet here. Halley's Comet. All kinds of stuff on comets on the internet called a dirty snowball or snowy dirt balls, depending on whether they're more ice or more rock. They say they know of 3,743 comets. They don't know how many they don't know about. Okay. Long period comets versus short period comets. Long period comets. Short period comets make one trip around the sun in 200 years or less, putting on a spectacular light show like Halley's Comet, comes every 70 years. Short period comets take less than 200 years to go around. Right? I don't care the comet. The comets don't care what we call them. Okay. Short period comet just stays within our solar system. Long period comet going to go outside of that. The entirety of Earth's water was delivered to us by comets. Whoa, okay. Pretty smart folks there. The comets have a tail being blown off.
That's
this is
BS.
losing its material. Well, you can't keep losing and losing. Pretty soon it's gone. Short period comets have a life expectancy of less than 10,000 years. Well, why do we still have short period comets? Because they're less than 10,000 years old. Halley's Comet comes around once every 75 years, will disappear after only 10,000 years. Typical lifetime for a comet. Well, why do we still have comets at all? Solar system exploration. Each time Halley's Comet loses 3 to 10 feet of material from the surface. Can't keep doing that. If you keep losing and losing, pretty soon it's gone. It's like your checkbook. If your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall every time. Lifespan of a comet, 10,000 years. Others give the lifespan as only 2,000 years. Disintegration is directly related to the orbital period, how many times it comes, or how frequently it comes around the sun. Shouldn't all comets be gone? Yes, but there are more comets stored in the deep freeze beyond Pluto. This is called stupid. You don't know any such thing. They made up this idea of a deep freeze out there, sending comets in once in a while to replace the ones that burn up, because they need a source for their comets, the Oort cloud. Some astronomers claim he saw that the Oort cloud is named after Oort. Oort never saw the Oort cloud. Nobody's ever seen the Oort cloud. Okay? So I covered a little bit about comets. It's Jan Oort, there's his name. He hoped, he wished, he prayed that a great spherical shell of comets existed at the remote frontiers of our solar system. Why? Well, it's to replace the ones that burn out. An atheist I debated said, yeah, that Oort cloud is 50,000 astronomical units away. An astronomical unit is from the Earth to the sun. 93 million miles is 1 astronomical unit. Okay, AU. Pluto is 39 astronomical units away. Seeing a comet 50,000 is impossible. You're dreaming, Dave Madsen, and all the rest of them that commented on that. Oort never saw the Oort cloud. It's based on mathematical errors. There is no Oort cloud. Okay, write it down. They've known this for 50 years now. Many scientific papers written about the Oort cloud, yet there's not a shred of direct evidence, observational evidence for its existence. Carl Pagan said that one. Though the Oort cloud has yet to be observed, stop and think. The theory accounts so well for the distribution of comets that most astronomers accept it because they need it to rescue their theory. The need for a source for long period comets, bodies that pass us by less than once every 200 years. It's the only evidence we have for the Oort cloud because we need it. They're desperate, brother, real desperate. Yeah, I've got plenty of stuff on comets here. We could spend all day. Icy object, let's see. They have yet to observe any object in the Oort cloud itself. But they make up a story about it, or that maybe the comets might be coming from the Kuiper belt. Right, nobody's ever seen that either. Shaped like a puffed up disk on the donut, 30,000 astronomical units from the sun. You can't see. They're making this up, brother. Only one spacecraft visited the Kuiper belt. 2019 has flew by.
That's not an excuse. I work and pay for stuff. I still have plenty of time to learn stuff and do other things.
Object later named Arrokoth, whatever. So they're saying there's a belt out there, the Kuiper belt and the Oort cloud.
Kuiper belt.
Okay, even if there is.
It's the Kuiper belt, Kent, not the Cooper belt.
You still got the problem. Where did the comets come from?
Right.
How did the comet stay in that cloud? What bumped it out of orbit? Are they all just sitting around waiting? My turn. How did they get going? They have gas pedals or something on these things? And Donnie, these guys are so desperate. They want so badly for there not to be a God telling them what to do.
They're willingly ignorant.
Exactly right.
Greg, didn't you say that's dumb on purpose, brother?
Yes, sir. That's French for dumb on purpose, willingly ignorant.
Genesis girl likes your Carl Pagan joke.
Okay.
And it's true. I would say they are polytheists because they believe in many lowercase g gods. They
Right.
believe in the Oort cloud. That's their God. They believe in time. That's their God. Have a look what a basic search on Google says. 2024, almost in 2025, Kat. What evidence is there for the Oort cloud? 2024. No direct observation of the Oort cloud is possible with present imaging technology. I don't think it'll ever be possible because it doesn't exist.
Right.
And then they go on to tell their story, brother.
It's thought to be
Evolutionary
distorted.
philosophy. Nevertheless, what that means is, okay, we don't have any evidence for it, but the cloud is thought. There's a lot of philosophy and unwarranted thinking coming from the evolutionists. So that comet one just destroys them. Matt, it's great to have you with us. To recap, Kent, as you said, we could discuss this topic for 3 hours. So you discuss human history, historical records, the Bible dates, of course. We have the birth certificate of the universe, salt in the oceans, the decaying magnetic field. That's a great one. Ice cores. So, Kent, you were arguing that they're not annual layers. It's basically just warm and cold spells. So you can get a bunch of layers quickly, right?
Well, yeah, the people who dug out the airplane told me there were hundreds of layers above the airplane. It's only been there 48 years.
Yeah. So I wonder, with all the layers that we see that that the evolutionists will point to, would we largely explain those layers due to the rapid post-flood ice age? They would accumulate rapidly during those years?
Some may have accumulated rapidly, that's for sure. But you probably have this in Canada. You can have a heavy snowfall and it packs down. If it packs the snow, it turns to milky colored white ice. If it melts a little bit and then refreezes, now it's clear ice. There's all kinds. Eskimos have a bunch of different words for snow and different words for ice or different kinds of ice. So I think what they're getting is white, clear, white, clear, white, clear. All it means is cold, warm, cold, warm, cold, warm. You get 3 of those in one day.
Yeah, those are great
Okay.
points. So you And then you discuss lunar recession. That's another great line of evidence that limits the age of the Earth. I've seen two main arguments. Hugh Ross, who you debated years ago, he said, well, it doesn't recede in a linear fashion, I think he said. But how does that help? How does that help them?
It lets them keep imagining that the Earth is billions of years old. It's just imagine. It's all SpongeBob fairy tale stuff. These ones I have on my screen here, all of them are covered and more on my DVD number 1 of my series, 18-hour seminar on creation and science and the Bible. Part 1 is all about just the age of the Earth, how to prove it cannot be billions of years old. I'm sorry. If you need billions of years for your theory, get a new theory. You can't have billions of years.
I like how you also pointed out that even with lots of time, Kent, even with billions of years, they're not going to take their fish to fishermen. They're not going to take their frog to prince.
Well, see, time actually makes it worse. Everything falls apart with time. It doesn't get better. Go look in your sock. Go look in your sock drawer right now. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. It's bad.
Okay.
Degeneration, extinction, more of a mess. That's what happens with time, more entropy. And so another big line of evidence that they'll point to try and support an old Earth brother, ice cores, which you demolished. That's why they're so angry, Kent. Their best lines of evidence you demolish over and over again. Tree ring dating. They'll say, well, tree ring dating demonstrates that these trees have to be a lot older than 6,000 years. What's a good response to that?
I think I've got that in here somewhere. The oldest tree. Here we go. The oldest tree. The bristlecone pine. We've got a log here in our science center out of a bristlecone pine from California, not the oldest one. They kind of hide which one is actually the oldest, but somebody brought a piece to me years ago. We counted the rings with a needle and a magnifying glass, 700 rings. Not necessarily 700 years old, 700 rings. See, the tree ring is not an exact science dating, just like ice layers. Trees can produce 2 rings a year. The soft, light-colored ring there, it represents a time of lots of rain, lots of sunshine, fast growth. If it does not get lots of sunshine and lots of water, it'll give a hard ring. And so those rings are hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, all the way out to the edge. What if you have a wet spring and the tree produces a big soft ring? Then you have a hot, dry summer for a couple months. It's going to produce a hard ring. Then you get a wet fall. Now you're going to get 2 rings a year. Let's see. Occasionally, trees produce more than 1 ring a year. Extra ring is called a false ring. Okay. Let's see. Evidence for multiple ring growth per year in bristlecone pine. Here's the article about it. It might interest you to know that trees go back 8,000 years without being disturbed by Noah's flood. Really? This is a secular website, obviously. Guys, let me explain. First of all, trees can survive a flood. A tree could actually be ripped out by the roots, float around and land and grow again in a new location. Or it could be just because Noah's in the ark for a year does not mean the whole world's flooded for a year. Parts of the world might have only been flooded for a couple hours or whatever long it takes to kill everybody. If the crust of the earth is flexing up and down after it got broken up like an eggshell, Noah was in the ark for a year. That we know, according to the Bible. How long each square inch was covered? Probably some places are still underwater. Like,
by the way, you see the tree's up. The tree is up. It's not decorated yet. Doesn't have lights on it yet. And garland. Stocking's up. I'm going to move the camera back a little bit up onto that box. So we're going to go to the old camera angle if you were, well, usually it's every Christmas camera angle. I'm going to take the camera back a little farther, widen up the shot, and get the Christmas tree and the Christmas decorations in it. Christmas time. We got a white Christmas tree. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas tree, but I already have one in my house. Top it with a hot pepper. Nah. I'm gonna put pepper on my tree.
Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean. So I think a lot of it, though, was maybe only underwater for a few weeks, enough to drown everybody. So some trees could survive that. Anyway, tree ring dating, what else got on here? About oldest tree in the world is 4,300 years old.
Oh, look at that.
Mm.
Matches up with the Bible.
Yeah. They got that 8,000 number for by overlapping rings. Here's a tree. They find a log in a log house and look, it's got the same ring pattern, so they overlap it to stretch it back further. From dead bristlecone pines. Let's see. They show up in tree rings. Okay, let's see. Here's what they did. Overlap. Log found in a building, some ruins, a dead tree, and a living tree. This is, I think, real shaky, okay, on shaky ground. Trees on opposite sides of the same mountain will get different growth patterns because as the air blows up the mountain, it drops all the rain. The leeward side and the windward side, it's opposite sides of the same mountain. Trees can have growing patterns, growing near each other, have very different growth patterns. Rain shadow can affect this, prevailing wind patterns. It's not an exact science. Trees can have different, let's see, prevailing wind. Oh, one tree can be growing, a big tree next to a little tree. The big tree gets all the sunlight.
Good, we're learning about young Earth tonight. If you didn't know, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. This is Kent Hovind. He's the boss. This guy is awesome. I love this guy. He's from Florida, Dinosaur Adventureland. I've been there before on a field trip.
Little guy doesn't. They're still growing one ring a year, but they're going to look, the ring pattern's going to look very different on the little guy because he's not getting the sunlight. Once the big one's gone, then the little guy takes off. One area of a forest can be diseased, right beside a disease-free tree area, a disease-free area. Things that can have trees growing near each other have very different growth patterns. A disease. One area of a forest may be diseased right beside a disease-free area. A tree growing in the shadow of a big tree will have different growth patterns. Good soil versus bad soil. That can be right next door to each other. Soil conditions can vary, causing different growth patterns. General Sherman tree they thought was 5,000 to 6,000 years old. Wow, it's only 2,000, got 2,000 rings. They just make up a number. Scientists trim off 3,000 years. General Sherman thought to be the oldest tree, thought to be estimated to be 2,000 years old. Other trees in that area are believed to be 3,200 based on tree ring counts. Yeah, General Sherman tree from the giant sequoia. I saw that years ago when I lived in California. 2,000 years old. Closer to General Grant trees, closer to 1,600. Well, what's the matter, guys? Trees can handle a week or two of flooding.
That's ambitious.
Tree species will widely vary in flood tolerance. One extreme, trees that are native to the floodplains, like cottonwoods, can withstand months of being inundated. What's the oldest tree? Methuselah tree. Let's see.
You know why it's called the
4,800 years
Methuselah
old.
tree? You know who it's named after? Methuselah. He lived 900 years.
This one says it's 4,300 years old. Earth's oldest organism. This one's
The 900-year-old people are the and Kent, I think it was Kent, did a great breakdown of this. He explained what parts of our body continue growing throughout the history of our life, and it's like something in our spine, in our forehead, in our brow, and I think maybe our finger or something like that. But basically, he shows a Neanderthal skeleton where they're hunched over and they got a big old forehead and a big brow, and they say that's our relationship to monkeys. Kent explains, I think it was Kent, I can't remember who explained it, but he showed all the science. And he said this is what a human would look like if they lived for 900 years. Just like the Bible says. They would look like a Neanderthal. They'd have a hunched over back. You know, they would probably have been smaller. They didn't have to be as big. Smaller, hunched over back. Big brow. Big forehead. That's because they're 900 years old, not because they're dang monkey people.
It says 4,800 years. I think they don't know. Okay. There's a Methuselah tree. Make up these numbers all the time. I think the Bible is very clear. God made everything about 6,000 years ago. 4,400 years ago, there was a flood. Some of the trees might have survived the flood. No problem out of me. Trees survive a flood, can be uprooted, redeposited, and survive. But they're saying,
Oh, see, Kent just said what you said, Goon. Trees can be uprooted and then repotted and survive. The flood could have ripped trees out. They could have floated, and then they could have landed in the soil and grew again.
370 million years ago for their theory. Okay, so that's what I cover, Donnie, on my video number 1 about the age of the Earth, along with about 15 or 20 more scientific indicators.
So we just need about another 20 hours with you. So Kent, we'll wrap up with this. Firstly, appreciate the points, lines of evidence that you've presented, all in line with what the Bible says, the birth certificate of the universe. So you've been busy with Thanksgiving, so I do appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. One last question, because you said something about how during the flood year, it's not that the entire earth was covered all at once all the time. Maybe some parts were covered, others were not. Because critics of biblical creation, brother, they'll say, well, how can a flood explain things like dinosaur egg nests? I mean, if the whole world is covered in water and everything is chaotic, then we shouldn't find preserved dinosaur egg nests. But would an answer to that revolve around what you're saying, that some parts would be covered, others would not? Therefore, there would be opportunities for dinosaurs to basically lay their eggs and then they're preserved?
Well, the dinosaurs are going to lay their eggs when the egg is ready to be laid inside the mother. Okay, the outside weather has no effect on when the mother is ready to lay the egg. She's going to lay the egg. Okay, so then suppose the flood came a week later. Waves come back and forth, cover the nest with mud, and now it's preserved. Yeah. Whether that area was covered total, like I said, Noah was in the ark for a year. That does not mean the whole world's flooded for a year. We know the ark rested in the 7th month. So Noah stayed in for 5 extra months, because the Bible says the water was halak vashab in the Hebrew, going and returning, sloshing back and forth. If the earth's covered in water and one place sinks in, caves in, water's going to rush into the hole and then slosh back and forth, and that becomes the ocean. Okay, so I think that we'd have to watch the video in heaven of exactly the details that happen. But yeah, some areas might have only been covered for a short time.
Do you think they strain in an ad and swallow a camel with a lot of these so-called challenges?
Unbelievable. They're so desperate to not believe the Bible. It's sad.
Yeah. Well, Ken, I got to get a copy of those slides of yours, brother. Yeah. Those are really good. Excellent work for my presentations. And we'll have to...
make a note. Send Donnie my thumb drive with all my slides. Okay.
Hey, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard from Matt yet. Matt, go ahead.
Matt.
Hang on. Matt, does your mama know you wrote on your arm like that?
She disowned him after.
I was teaching school 15 years, and the kids would do that all the time. Does your mama know you're writing all over your arm? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Matt. Let's hear it.
You did it before you were a Christian, right, Matt?
Yeah. Matter of fact, as soon as I turned 18, I got them. Yeah. Went all over.
Okay.
And then you got saved and thought, oops, maybe I shouldn't have did that. So Matt, what's going on? Do you have any questions or anything for Kent?
Oh, for Kent. Actually, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do something for Kent. And since I'm a video editor, would you like me to make you a movie DVD? Because you're always on camera. You're doing something like where you just share your visuals and then you talk about them. But I literally can make like a movie documentary for all of your stuff. And I was working on sending you a text just last night. I was like, I'll just ask you in person, because you have DVDs out there. I can make you something really epic. So dwell on what you would like, and we'll be in contact, and I'll make you something really unique, really different. Really
are you in Canada too, Matt? Where are you at?
No, I'm in California.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, really.
So who's in a worse location, me in Canada or Matt in California?
Ooh, that's a toss-up, brother. I lived in California 3 years. They drive like maniacs out there, brother. Just
Yeah, even I do.
oh yeah. I'd love to
Yeah.
get an animation, brother. I want somebody good at animating to take Walt Brown's animation about the hydroplate theory and
What's the
add to
channel?
it the canopy.
This is Standing for Truth. It's this guy's channel. He does he hosts debates, Christian debates between different denominations and stuff. So he's always got like Trinity debates and Eucharist and stuff about Immaculate Conception or original sin, or in this case, Young Earth. Standing for Truth is the name of the channel. It's a good channel. If you like Bible stuff, Christian stuff, and debates.
Theory.
Oh, okay.
I think they're missing because the canopy would get shattered, being super cold ice would be dumped in on the North and South Pole, and then it would take 200, 300, or 400 years to melt back.
And then Kent's channel is, I don't know, I think you just look up Kent Hovind. I'm sure you know who Kent Hovind is, Seesaw.
Which means when Noah got off the ark, the continents were bigger because the ice is trapped, the water's trapped at the North and South Pole. Well, if the continents are bigger, oceans are lower, you could walk anywhere in the world for a few hundred years. I want all that in an animation, like Walt Brown did. He did a great job on the hydroplate theory. Have you seen that one?
I've got his book behind me up there.
I know, but have you seen the video they did, the hydroplate theory?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very good. That animation is good, but we need to add to it the canopy. And then,
Well,
yeah.
I was going to say, with your canopy, you have a nice, elegant solution as well to a lot of the heat that's generated during the flood that the critics like to say, oh, that refutes the flood. But if you add in a canopy as per the Hovind theory, that resolves a large portion of that issue.
Right. See, as air expands, it absorbs heat. Take a hairspray can or paint can and just hold the button down. As you spray out, the can gets ice cold in your hand. If the Earth had a compressed air around it, and then that pressure is relieved by the canopy shattering, solves the problem. So there's not a heat problem. Now the atheist.
And when you say this to Christians, they have no idea what you're talking about, because this isn't just his theory. Lots of people have posed this theory that the firmament, the waters, separation of the waters meant there was two layers, and there was a canopy or a firmament of water around the earth, and that the air inside, it was like a terrarium. It was like you got no radiation from the sun, so nobody's having cancer. You got no processed food, so people aren't dying from that. You don't have storms. The weather is peaceful. It's like a tropical oasis everywhere, because everything is in an enclosed system like a terrarium. There's no heavy rains. There's no hurricanes. There's less effect from the moon and the sun on the earth because of this barrier. When the firmament breaks, that's the opening of the heavens and all the water comes down. That's the flood. After the flood, our lifespan is shortened to 120 years by God, which makes sense scientifically, because now we don't have that barrier there anymore. Now we got storms, we got ice ages, we got freaking radiation from the sun. The sun's bearing down on us. It's hotter everywhere. It's colder everywhere. Turns into a more harsh environment once the floodwaters recede. And that, what he said about being able to walk all over the world, that's scientific too. They know that. They know that there used to be land bridges everywhere. How do they think that freaking they crossed the Bering Strait? There used to be more land to walk across, which explains how you have certain speciation in Australia. A lot of the people, when they debate like a young earth creationist, they'll be like, I forget the animal, but they'll be like, why do we have kangaroos and koalas in Australia, but not anywhere else? Or how'd they get here? They evolved from the blah blah blah, which comes from Africa. How could they have got here? Well, there used to be land bridges and things used to be connected. And then when they went to that region, whatever animal it was adapted to that region, so they look differently now. Little bear. I don't even know if koalas are real, to be honest. They say they are. But a kangaroo is just like a muscular rat with a big tail.
Atheists are going to have a heat problem when they die, and I hate that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the real heat problem, the lake of fire. Anybody's name who's not written in the book of life, they're cast in the lake of fire. There's the real heat problem. So
Right.
Kent, that'd be a really cool animation to show the canopy shattering and also that rapid cooling effect because of the canopy going on.
Amen. There we go.
Makes sense since the Bible says in Genesis what a steam or vapor water watered Eden. Right. Yeah, it wouldn't have been rain. It would have just been mist, like a terrarium. It would have been like a fog, and it would have been very humid, and it would have been tropical everywhere, like climate, like humid, tropical. The air would have been moist and thicker. And that's how things were watered. They weren't watered by rain. When Noah said rain is coming, a flood is coming, rain is coming, they didn't know what he was talking about. Nobody knew what he was talking about. They thought he was crazy. They didn't know what rain was. Facts.
Let's see. Here's the. I'm no artist or I can barely do PowerPoint, brother. But let's see. Here's the drawing. Carl Baud had this done, and it was just really, I think it's classic of what the Bible teaches.
But I have one art disagreement with this. So if we want to say from Adam and Eve it was 6,000 years, okay, I can be on board with that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that God created the earth 6,000 years ago, because there are portions in the creation story, like from Genesis 1:1 to Genesis 1:2, where a length of time isn't given. So could have been a billion years, could have been a million years. This is the time before Adam and Eve, while the world is here, and there's darkness over the waters, and he hasn't made day and night yet. He hasn't began creating life on Earth. So Earth is just a dark void in space, I guess. And that could have been millions, billions years. Like at that point, time isn't even really. Time would only be relative to God, because him and Jesus and maybe the angels and the demons, they're the only ones around. So human time is not even a concept yet. So it could have been a billion years, and it could have been like a blink of an eye to God and Jesus and the angels, you know. But from the time of Adam and Eve, 6,000 years, I could see it. I could see it.
Is about let's see, there we go. I'm going too fast through the slides, but I'll send you my thumb drive with all of them. Let's see. There we go. There was a layer of ice above the atmosphere. The Bible says God said there would be water above the firmament. Genesis chapter 1 and 2. And it tells us clearly the firmament is where the birds fly. That's the atmosphere. And so there used to be a layer of ice or water above that, and then water under the crust of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see about the scoffers. This ice canopy would be shattered when the fountains of the deep broke open and would launch rocks up and smash it, I think. Super cold ice is magnetic. Anybody studies this topic will tell you the canopy, I think, was probably held up by either
he's talking
air pressure,
about
like a big.
He's talking about the radiation not being able to get through. And I didn't get this from him. Well, I heard about the ice canopy when I was a little kid, like long time ago. I heard about that's what we were taught in school, is that the firmament was a layer of water or ice that broke, and that's what the flood was. We learned this in elementary school, because I went to a Southern Baptist Christian school, and they would teach us what science says. They would teach us about evolution, but then they would say, here's what we believe, and here's what the Bible says. And they that's when I learned about all this, about the separation of the waters and the radiation and the people being able to live 900 years, how we explain all this, how I learned to explain it, and I still believe it. Science hasn't given me a better explanation yet. But yeah, he's hitting on all of it. He's hitting on the radiation.
Inflatable building, or held up by the Earth's magnetic field, because super cold ice is magnetic.
And so he says the one thing different than from how I say it, I say that water is the firmament. He's saying the firmament is the sky and the atmosphere, and that the canopy was the layer of water or ice around us that is separate from the firmament. I usually just say that is the firmament. It implies firm in the name, firmament. Whenever I see the firmament, the Bible's talking about the firmament as where the birds fly. Seems more poetic language than describing something physical. Basically, they're just saying, we know the firmament's up there, the birds are up there, birds are in the firmament. Virginia's. I don't know what. If you're trying to say something weird, Dean, then cut it out. But I don't know what you're saying. Virginia's. I'm not gonna read that. You're being kind of weird.
Let's see right here. About all the coal in the world, the giant coal seams. Yeah. The world was loaded with trees. I mean, Adam and Eve would be embarrassed to come back and see our forests today. Right. They're nothing compared to what they used to be.
Tartaria, tunnel and tree world, giant tree world. I'm still sticking with Tartaria being giant tree world. I don't care if people think it's tunnel world. It's tunnels and giant trees. Is Tartaria. All right, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go to work. I gotta get this video edited up as soon as possible. The Thanksgiving video. It's only gonna be like a 20-minute video, but it's pretty good. We had a good Thanksgiving. I gotta get the Christmas tree done up. I got a lot on my plate. A lot of things we gotta do for the channel coming up. So make sure you guys hit the like button. I'll try to come back tomorrow for like an hour, hang out. But we gotta go. Remember, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. Let's freaking go. God bless everybody. Have a good night. Let me send you. Let me see if maybe Buff's on or somebody else is on. Oh, what's it called? BK should be on. Yeah. All right. I'll send you over there. All right. Have a good night, guys. We out. Peace. Go say hi to Easy.